Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is a beautiful, quiet Saturday afternoon, and I'm here today to do another video for you. This video is a requested video, and I get very excited when I'm requested to do a video. You know, guys, I vlog quite a bit, and I'm always out and about in the city of Memphis doing, vlogs and showing you where I go to for entertainment or go to eat. And I got a request that someone for me to tell them the pros and cons of living in Memphis because they were thinking about moving here. And I've never thought about doing that type of video, so I decided that was great. So I'm gonna just go over a few things that I came up with what I think are pros and cons of living here. Now, I know there are gonna be people that don't agree with some of the things because we're all different. We all have certain likes and dislikes, so therefore some of the things that I may not like or I call a con may be a pro to somebody, or I won't say it's a pro to them. They may not feel that it's a con. So, but I'm going to go over what I did. And I took some notes, so I'm going to be looking down so that I can stay focused, because y'all know I can go left. But first off, I'm going to say I moved here in 2007. And I lived here for probably about 7 years. And then I relocated back home to Chattanooga. That's my hometown. Because some things happened there and I had to go back home to help my mom out. So I moved there and I stayed there roughly close to 2 years, and then I moved back. So now I have been back in Memphis again almost 2 years. Well, actually I have been here 2 years. So I'm going to just go over the things that I have experienced and what I've learned since living here. And I must say that now Memphis was not like a pick for me. I just didn't one day wake up and say, I want to move to Memphis, Tennessee. I was at that point in a relationship with a guy that had a business, and we decided to work the business together. And I had been commuting from Chattanooga to Memphis on a regular basis, and that's like a 300-mile drive, and so I got tired of doing the drive and decided that I would move here, and rather than try to commute back and forth whenever I was needed to be here. So that's how it came about. And then once you get here and you get established, you can't be just running back and forth up and down the highway. So when the relationship ended, I didn't go back home. So I stayed here. So I had kind of built my life here. So, I just decided to go ahead and stay because I stayed here such a long time. But anyway, I'm going to jump right into it. The first thing I think before you even consider moving anywhere, you need to consider why you want to live there. I think that's very important because I think a lot of times people see how beautiful a city may be, and they look at different things. They look at the nightlife. Sometimes they look at how pretty the city is, and they decide based on that. But you got to know the inside scoop. You can't just look at that and decide that that's a place to live. So once you consider your reasoning for wanting to live to that, go and move to that city, then you can go from there. Okay, so I'm going to start off with some of the cons here in Memphis that I think everyone should know about. Some of you have probably already heard of some of these things, but I want to break it down a little bit for you. Now, we do know that Memphis has one of the highest unemployment rates. It is a lot of people in Memphis, roughly around, I'd say about 1 million people when you consider the counties, So it's a lot of low poverty, communities in the city of Memphis, so that makes an unemployment rate high, and the homelessness rate is very high as well. Number two, which one of the shows, 48 Hours, kind of made Memphis popular because of it, which I think it started giving Memphis a very bad rap, worse than what it really is, and that's the crime rate. But the crime rate is pretty high. If you look at the stats, you can Google the stats. It is pretty high. But I want to break it down to you a little bit. I think more than anything, theft is the highest because it's a lot of, people breaking into things, cars, and robbing people, and, things of that nature is probably the highest. Now, there is a high homicide rate, but I must say that the majority of homicides are domestic. It's crime with people they know, or spouses, or relationship issues. So I know a lot of people say, well, that really don't make a difference, but it does, because when you think about homicides like in Chicago or Detroit, where it could just be random people killing, people they don't know, the crime rate here as far as homicides are mainly little groups of people who know each other. It could be like gang activity, or like I said, spousal and relationship type of deals, or family issues. It's a lot of domestic homicides. Okay, and I'm going to move on to public transportation. I think with a city of this size, they could have done some things like Atlanta. They could have a transit system where they have a train. They do have public transportation busing system, but because there are some counties that are like really far out, and it limits, you know, the transportation to and from those areas because people are not riding the bus, so therefore they don't have a lot of routes on those buses. So a lot of people find it hard to get around that don't own cars. If you had a train system like a lot of our major cities like DC and New York City, you know, and Atlanta, you could park and then commute into the city. But people are finding that they have to find their way in because you might have 4 or 5 routes in a day to an area of town that could be anywhere from 20 to 25 or 30 minutes from downtown if they work in downtown Memphis. So it could, you know, benefit of having that system, which I was told by a friend of mine that they looked at it some years back, but somehow it just didn't, you know, get passed, and so they never looked in it further. And now I live in the downtown area, so I'm blessed that I walk to work. I work only 2 blocks away from where I live, so I can walk to work every day. And plus I live on a street that has a trolley line, and that makes it easier for me if I want to go, you know, to like restaurants or, you know, some entertainment or whatever. I can just hop the trolley and just ride it there. But like I said, once again, it only runs so far in the downtown area. I think it just kind of runs around the outskirts, and in the downtown area, it doesn't go anywhere out in the suburbs or any of those rural areas that need transportation. So it could benefit from that. What else is, I think, as far as the jobs are concerned, it depends on what field you're in. Of course, Memphis being a very big tourist city, there's a lot of jobs in tourism, like the hospitality industry. You can work in hotels. A lot of the, you know, tourist attractions, you can get jobs there. There's a lot of museums and things of that nature here. As far as the pay scale, I don't think it would be all that great. But yeah, there's a lot of tourist attractions here. We have hundreds of thousands and millions of people that travel into this city, probably from spring all the way down to like, you know, November, you know, coming to see many of the tourist attractions here. So if you're not in that industry or manufacturing / like warehouses, that's pretty rampant here. You got, you know, FedEx and International Papers, and what's another big hub that's here? I'm losing my train of thought right now. I can't think. But you do have a few places like that. And we're also in the bid for Amazon. We got Service Master. So those types of industries are booming. So if you're in that type of field, you could probably get a job. But as far as corporate jobs, is very few and far between. I think it would take a very higher education to get some of those jobs, meaning bachelor's and master's degrees to get some of those higher jobs. You know, I work in the banking industry, which my field by trade in education is the hospitality industry, and that's where I started. But I'm in the banking industry now, but it's, you know, probably one of the, and I hate to say this, but it's just one of the fields that I really don't like, but I do because it takes care of me. So please know what you want to get into, or already have a job lined up, or be expecting to change, you know, careers, to do something different, because, you know, those are the fields that are booming. Because even working for the state, you know, I was told that a lot of those jobs are very low on the pay scale. You know, they're like basic, where you might be able to go to a larger city like Chicago or go to DC and make a whole lot more doing the same job. So take that in consideration. Now I'm gonna jump off of some of the cons right now, and I'm gonna start with some of the positives. The cost of living here is pretty reasonable. If you're not trying to live in the downtown area and you just want to live out, there are some very nice areas that are reasonable as far as the rent is concerned. You know, mortgages and things like that. You can find some very nice rental places to live. The closer you get into town, of course, and I think that's probably in pretty much every major city, your cost of living is going to be higher, unless you're willing to not, be so up on the amenities. And like the building I live in is an old hotel that was built back in the 1800s, and it's been several things. I think it was a department store at some point, and it's the building is actually still structured like the hotel. The hallways, and it's just like you would if you went to a hotel and you got the hallways and then the actual rooms. But they do have ranges of rent that you can pay, and trust me when I say I'm on the lower end, but there are some high-end ones that cost upwards, for like a one bedroom could be anywhere from $1,400 to $1,600. So just take that in consideration. The parking in downtown Memphis, I think, is horrible. And the more that they bring more hotels here and more businesses into the downtown area, the fewer the parking, is, because, you got to think about all of the tourists that come into the city every year, and you can't accommodate that. Plus people who live down here or work down here, and the parking is very minimal. I actually park in a parking garage where I pay a monthly fee to park there, but it doesn't guarantee me a spot. I just have to try to get there, and luckily working downtown now, I don't move my car as much. But when I used to work out and I had to drive back in, some evenings I find myself just driving around and around and around in the tower trying to find a space, and end up like on the 6th or 7th floor. And sometimes I didn't even find a space. I would have to come back out, and then you'd have to come back and try later to see if you can find parking. So take that in consideration. But it kind of makes you angry when you think about the fact that you live here and you're paying this monthly fee and can't be guaranteed a spot. Okay, it is a music city. So one of the things I tell people about the music here, because a lot of people think that it's all genres, even though there are all genres played here. You have many shows come here, many concerts, entertainers that come here to perform. But the city is basically and primarily a blues city. So everywhere you go, you're going to hear blues, whether it's old school blues or more the modern blues, but you're gonna hear blues. So if you are not accustomed to it, like I wasn't when I moved here, because I didn't grow up listening to blues like that, every now and then, certain artists, your parents listen to, you heard it in your home, but like B.B. King, but you just didn't listen to it on a regular. So I had to adjust to that, because blues to me sometimes can be very depressing, because most blues music is telling a story, and it's usually about someone's life, some hard times they went through. So very rare do you hear a blues song that is upbeat and it's talking about happy times. It's usually talking about struggles and hard times. And I think because of this region of the country, that's how a lot of people got by singing. So just take that in consideration also. What else? I put a lot of stuff down here. The school systems. If you have children, the public school system is horrible. My daughter, when she moved here, she was in high school. And I have to say that I prayed to God and thanked him when she left. But I did move her from the public school system to a county school, because the public school system was horrible. And then I did have better results for her last 2 years. Was it 2 years or 3 years? Her last 3 years of high school at the county school. But just to let you know, if you Google it, it's going to be one of the lowest, school systems in the country as far as teaching and all of that. It's just horrible. I think more of the teachers here spend more time trying to discipline the children versus educating them, because the kids here are just on a whole nother level. I'm just going to tell y'all just like that. So that's something to take in consideration. One of the things that I have struggled with that I think is really, really hard for me is that racism is a big issue here. There is a divide, I don't know how it all started, but I do know a lot of native Memphians, especially in the black community. They migrated from Mississippi. So I know people here who had mothers and fathers who worked in cotton fields, who worked for masters and things like that, and on plantations and farms like that. And I've never known it that up close and personal. My great grandmother, I remember she worked on a cotton field, but I never knew people that were my age who had parents who worked for people. So in Mississippi, you can ride through there and still see cotton fields. So it's it's just one of those things, and it's hard to get adjusted to that. And so a lot of people carry a lot of scars from the history. And then you have the people riding around here with the Confederate flags, and you have the white supremacists fighting and arguing back and forth with black people, and you have the groups like the Black Lives Matter. So it stays a bunch of conflict a lot of times. And with everything that has been happening lately, we're one of the cities that are having issues with the statues and things, because there are a lot of statues around Memphis that did represent that slave period. And so it can be hard. But I have to say that I have met some good people from all races since I've lived here. But be prepared to experience it, because it's going to happen. Just keeping it real, it's going to happen. One good thing, another thing, the food here is very, very good, which I depict in a lot of my videos. I am a Google Guide reviewer, so I do a lot of Google Guide reviews. I've had almost 5 million views on my pictures and reviews that I've done on Google. And I get a lot of invites to openings of restaurants, which I think is a great perk, because I get to go places and eat free, because I do that. And if you want to do it, you just can do it through Google. It's easy to get started. And the more, just everywhere you go, if you're eating or visiting a place, you just do a review, and that's how you build yourself up. So that's just a plug for free. But so I do eat at a lot of places around here, and Memphis is one of the, places that I can say you can find some very good cuisine. They do every year, they do like 2 restaurants a week. I think they do one in the fall and they do one in the summer, and you can go eat for like a really good discount, and it's great. And then you have chefs that, throw these little parties, tasting parties and different things like that, so you can get a chance to experience some of the cuisine. And in Memphis in May, which is a great festival that's happening here every year, they have a what you call the barbecue festival, and you have people that come in from all over the world to this contest, and to eat and taste some of the best barbecue that you could ever taste. And I do know that Memphis does place in that contest every year, so that is a really good thing. But Memphis is one of the highest obese cities too, so just know that too, because that's all that good eating. Let's see what else. There's a lot of history here. I don't know if I did say that. So if you love history, you can certainly get out and you can educate yourself about a lot of things. There's a big celebration that's going to be happening next year, celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King and his 50th anniversary of his death. And I'm so excited about that. That is going to be amazing here, because if you know your history, you do know that he died here. So the museum is here, the hotel where he died, that they turned into a museum. So if you're in Memphis, make sure you do visit that. Let's see, what else do I have down here? And just for all of my spiritual and my Christians and people who like churches, there is a plethora of churches all over this city. It's almost like every corner. So if you looking, whatever your preference is, you just Google it and you can find churches everywhere. It is all over this city. So those are just a few of my, making sure I got everything. Yeah, those are just a few of my things I want you to consider when making a decision to move to Memphis. I have adjusted to the city for a long time. It was hard for me. I think it took about 5 years for me to adjust, because I came from more of a diverse community, and the dynamics and demographics was different, where, excuse me, there are more black people here in this city. The city I came from, there were more Caucasian people. So it was different, coming to a city that had a lot of my people and going everywhere and seeing it, and that was a great thing. I would like to see more black businesses here. That is one of the things that I think is lacking. I think that we could stand to have more of our businesses. But I do say that I do enjoy Memphis quite a bit because of all the culture that is here. And you get to experience it, all the old school soul and blues, and just the different dynamics. And we do have people that come in from other places here. So it is, a nice place to live once you adjust to it. But those are things I want you to consider and think about before you decide to make a decision to move here to Memphis, Tennessee. So if you have any other questions, if I left out anything that is importance to you, please leave it below. I was trying to cover like the major things that I think would be very important for people to know about if they made a decision to move here to Memphis. So that is all I have today on this particular video. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the evening, and I'll see you in another video.